Hey, everybody. My name is Eric Hanched. I am a senior developer advocate here at AWS, and this is the Kiro bi-weekly show. Every 2 weeks, we get on here, we stream, we talk about Kiro, we bring guests on, and today we have a very special guest. So let's do a round of introductions for everybody who doesn't know everyone here. So Rob, how about you go first?
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Rob and I'm a developer advocate here at AWS, working with developer productivity tools, and Kiro is one of them.
Awesome. And Rob is going to be a little bit of the co-host today. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm the host of Dev Interrupted, a podcast for engineering leaders tackling how AI is transforming their engineering enterprises. And I'm also the senior developer advocate at LinearB because AI is helping us all create more code and LinearB helps you ship it. I'm really excited to be here because we've been covering the Kiro story all year and all of the developments from AWS on our podcast, including the great work from your product leaders. So I myself am using these tools a lot. I'm a Kiro power user. So I'm excited to be here and be part of the party.
Awesome. I love it. Also, I guess our fourth person in the room is our chat. So this is streaming live on Twitch and YouTube and X. So if you are in the chat room, please say hi to us. It looks like, we got some Imperial Tech from Australia. How you doing?
Oh, nice. Australia. What time is it there?
We got some Pakistan. We got Derek Gusto. Do you read comments from both Twitch and YouTube? So yes. If you leave comments, we will try to we will respond to them. We can see all of them. 1:32 a.m. Wow.
1:30 a.m. It's amazing. Okay, great. Well, it really is a party then.
Respect the hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. And of course, thanks they're off stage now, but our producer,
Yes.
Keon and Emma and everyone else who helps put these shows together. Cool. So Rob, you may have to sit back and just watch, but we had a fun idea for a segment to start this live stream. So we are going to jump in and kind of talk about different ways of using Spec and Vibe. And we have these really fun paddles. Andrew, do you have yours? Yes.
Oh yeah, I got mine.
So we are going to talk about different scenarios and which one we think are Spec and which one are Vibe. Andrew, go ahead and explain a little bit more.
Yeah, so we're going to play a little segment called Spec or Vibe, where we're going to pick an idea from a bowl. I literally have a bowl here from my kitchen full of amazing ideas from our producer. They're part trolling, part real, right? So these are engineering projects that you would totally maybe build with a maybe extra qualifying feature that makes it a little wacky or strange. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pull one out of the bowl. I'm going to read it out loud. And then Eric and I are going to decide, would we write a spec for that? Or would we just vibe code that? And we'll see if we agree or disagree on some of these. They're pretty funny.
Cool. And before we jump in there, what is your definition of spec, like in general?
Yeah, so spec is making a plan before you start. It's about working with a tool, in this case, to get a clear understanding of what your goal is. And making a spec is, and many times, as much about being asked questions and capturing what you learned about those questions as it is writing down what you want. It's like an opportunity for you, and in this case, the LLM, to like agree on a crystal clear idea before you start building it.
I love that, because I feel like when you're using LLMs and you're using these coding assistants, the LLM has to do a lot of work to figure out what you mean.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fine for like small features. We've all heard the term vibe coding, where you're just going back and forth. I think it was originally coined by Andre Karpathy, and just this way of like giving into the vibes and kind of working back and forth. But that does take a lot of time, and there's nothing wrong with vibe coding, but there's some tasks I feel that really do better with specs when you need more introspection and more thought behind it.
And you need like a blueprint that you can point back to when things go off the rails. I think that's a really key part of working with the spec as well. And I'll let you in on a secret is before I was an engineer, I was a kindergarten teacher. So I know all about what it means to wrangle a bunch of people if you don't know what you want. And so it's really clear to understand what your goals are before you go into anything. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that as we look at some of our ideas in the bowl.
I love it. I love it. Well, if anytime anybody in chat has questions, comments, feel free.
Yeah, and weigh in too. Like if you have a strong opinion on one of these or you totally disagree, like I want to know. I have some ideas for what might come up.
Yes. Yeah, let's jump into it.
All
I
right.
know we have limited time today with you, Andrew. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. So let's reach in here and see what our first one is. Okay. Building a user dashboard where everything must be explained through cooking metaphors. Would you spec that or would you vibe that?
Okay.
So a user dashboard that could display anything, but it has to explain that data using like cooking explanations.
Awesome. Okay. I think I have an idea.
Ready? All right. I'm going to count us down and then want to show. Okay.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. You spec that too. Okay. So why would you spec that?
I was just thinking like a dashboard is a lot. It's a kind of a lot of moving pieces. Like I would think as like a front end, like thinking as a front end engineer, how I would create that, I would probably have maybe multiple components at different parts of the dashboard together. Maybe to have to be cohesive. There's it's a little bit more complex. Obviously, I'm assuming we would have a footer and header that we have to kind of put together, and then we'd have maybe logic that's pulling the data from a backend data source. Maybe it's REST. Maybe we're using like something like Next.js or TanStack Start, and it's all in one app. But still, we need to kind of have
spec. You like have a spec ready for this thing already. So it's like the way that you even framed it is like you have these section headers of these things that you do. That's the same reason I tackled it too, because a dashboard, by sake of being a dashboard, is a pretty recognizable experience. Like, data is going to go in, it's going to get showed in some way. And so what I would do is spec it. And then after it's specced, then I would maybe, get the LLM to add those cooking metaphors at the end. So maybe like at that last bit, like that would be like my vibe portion of this. Maybe I wouldn't even put that in the spec. Maybe I would just start by making a normal dashboard, right? Get a really good baseline. And then at the very like 11th hour, be like, oh, hey, by the way, you can only use like food emojis for this or something, and just see what it can do.
No, yeah, I like that. Yeah, maybe breaking it up and maybe doing a little vibe coding at the end for the food metaphors. We do have a quick question, but I want to make sure we get through the segment. But from Gusto, would you consider that a fair fight between Vibe and Specs if the spec experience in Kiro is one of the best in the market, but the Vibe experience is one of the weaker?
Well, I will say that Spec becoming a first-class experience within Kiro is why it's a tool that I turn to often when I got to build really complex things. Something that I've been learning this year building with these tools is that we need like a new set of primitives in order to get more out of our engineering work and to make it more repeatable when working with these tools. One of them is having like a really good sandbox that you can like mess around in and like break things. But another one of them is having a really good planning system. And in Kiro, making a spec as a first-class citizen of the entire experience. And when things come up that require revisions, that goes back to it. So in the world of like spec versus vibes, I want you to think of it as like spec with vibes, because you can bring the things that make vibe coding fun and quick and successful and make that a spec based thing. In fact, it's probably going to get you more reliable results. And along the way, you can define the things that make your vibe experience more clearer because you're going to have specs for everything.
I like that. And I feel like the vibe experience in Kiro just in general is good. It's pretty good already, but we are working on some more enhancements to definitely both vibe and spec. Stay tuned soon. Cool.
Shall I draw the next one?
Let's do another one. Yes.
Yeah, let's do another one. All right, this is a good one. Creating API documentation that's a choose your own adventure story.
Oh, that's a tough one. Just API documentation.
Creating API documentation as a choose your own adventure story. I am ready. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. So we're both vibe on that one. I know, right? So
yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. How you explain why would you vibe this?
I don't know. Like, and so it's just documentation. It sounds like.
Yeah, creating
And
API documentation.
And what style is it again at the end?
As a choose your own adventure story.
First, I was a huge fan of Choose Your Own Adventure.
I was just about to say this is like right up my alley. I loved these things as a kid. So.
Yeah. I had a big stack of those books. I would say like documentation. There's a whole discipline. Don't get me wrong, and Andrew, you probably know better than me. There's a whole discipline to how you create your infrastructure when you're creating documentation and how you put it together. I'm just thinking like I would probably vibe code it, because one thing LLMs are really good as is summarizing things, putting it into words. Of course, you have to proofread it and get rid of all the M dashes and in the very way LLMs and AI writes. But it's very good at those things. I feel like I would have different parts of the API spec in different areas, and maybe I'd be like, look at this API example here, create some documentation on it. Okay, great, created it. Now I'm going to go to some other parts of the API that I've already written. Maybe it can even help me create the documentation. We had this idea of this design or documentation driven development when I worked on a different team at AWS. And I think it would work well with that vibe world. What do you think?
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. The reason that I leaned into vibe for this is because when I think of like what functionally makes something a choose your own adventure story, because it's just a book like anything else, but what makes it choose your own adventure is at the end of each of the pages. It tells you what page to go to next. So it points you all around the page, all around the book, and weaves you all around, right? And that's what creates the story. You can't flip it through it linearly or through a system that you would understand to get what you'd want. So I would have my API documentation through whatever process that documentation exists. I'm probably not specking or vibing my API documentation, at least at this stage, because it's net new information about a machine. But once I do have it, I have my markdown. Maybe I even have it organized exactly how I want. I'm going to tell the LLM that I want to have the user jump all around between them, and we need to create a narrative and a story. And so then I would basically vibe which pages get connected to what, because ultimately it doesn't matter, because it's choose your own adventure. You're jumping around wherever, and the stories would be embedded inside of those pages. Now, I guess maybe like a layered part of this is, would you, the choose your own adventure story, like, would you make it interactive, or would you just make it something you read?
Yeah, that would be fun. I could see it be like a little interactive while you go through it. Generally, this feels a little crazy.
Like, it's a crazy idea. Could you imagine learning an API that way? Yeah. Let's do one more, and maybe it won't be as crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. Oh no, that's another dashboard one. We're not.
Before you pick the next one, a question. Yeah, we probably spend just one quick thing on it. The writing documentation, like using just like you could do with blogs or anything else, you are strongly against, or in the middle, or strongly for. It sounded like you were on the side of not having the documentation itself being written by.
Oh, I mean, I would be comfortable generating and creating the documentation in a workspace that lived alongside the code that I'm creating the documentation from. So I think that would be fine. But so it would probably be definitely to help accelerate that task. I wouldn't write it off per se. But in the case of like the API documentation, choose your own adventure story, I think that's too many chaos variables, So I got our next one for probably our last one. You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a good one, because this is a bread and butter. Would you spec this or would you vibe this? Designing a database schema that must work on a 1990s server. Would you spec that or would you vibe that?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
Oh, wow. We're divided room on the last one. Okay, so I made you go first last time, so I'll explain why I'd spec this. I'd spec this because the 1990s server, I'd imagine, is working off a very specific specification that exists somewhere, documented. Maybe it's an IETFS, doc, or maybe it's some sort of like a technical spec on how to create something. So I feel like there's so much good documentation on how those machines were created and connected with each other, because they worked on such a lower level that I probably just feed that in to an LLM and be like, create, spec out how I would make this compatible application. Why would you vibe it?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, well, with 1990s, I would have to find the documentation, and I agree with like feeding it in somehow, because our large language models and coding systems weren't probably trained on 1990s hardware or whatever database runs on 1990s hardware, like an AIX or something crazy.
Yeah.
What I would probably do then is maybe create, like in Kiro, you can create steering docs, and maybe create like a steering doc with some of the basics of using it, and then just kind of go back and forth and vibe code it. Because I feel like we're just creating a part of the database structure. Is it's a database table? Was it a database?
A database schema. Let's think loosely here. Just some part of like the database that maybe it's the binary that runs the database on this server, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's something really old, which is what makes it kind of like a unique challenge. And I see here too someone in the comments calling out using Kiro for schema design. I think tools like Kiro are great for that. So great spotlight on that comment.
Oh yeah, well, yes. I just shipped agentic SQL with Kiro. AI reads code, generates production schemas, deploys to AWS 90 seconds. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
yeah.
awesome.
I can imagine, like, I just feel like it's a little bit of a smaller task that I could just vibe code real quickly rather than having it create like this.
That's fascinating that you would vibe code it. I almost I wish Rob had a paddle. Rob, Rob, you want to be our tiebreaker? What would you do?
I hate to do this, but sometimes you have to do both. Sometimes you have to vibe out to get some ideas.
Oh, that's a non-answer.
No, that's the right answer, because ultimately this stuff goes hand in hand.
I would vibe out a minimally functional example of that. And then from that, gather up whatever issues and bugs that we had to flush through to get Kiro to understand kind of what I'm going for. And then after that, I would create some steering documentations and then spec it out for a larger app.
That sounds like a good plan. I'd buy in. I'd trust it.
Chat, you guys also chime in here. Looks like Gusto also said MVP is how it can look well when Kira does it and compared to mission plan. That's I think in the previous one. Yep. Cool. Yeah, that's super fun.
Gosh, I could do this all day, to be honest.
Yeah, so we can keep going.
I know y'all got things to do. I still got another bowl of it, so maybe we'll come back and play another round sometime.
Yes.
But this was a ton of fun.
It's definitely been awesome, Andrew. So once again, where can people find you? And then I think you have a special announcement with Dev Interrupted I'm really excited about.
Yes. So like I said, I'm the host of Dev Interrupted. You can find us on Substack and LinkedIn. We have a newsletter that drops every Tuesday with a full-length interview with engineering leaders about how they're tackling AI within their engineering orgs. And this upcoming week, this upcoming Tuesday, we're dropping an episode with Amit Patel, one of the product leaders at Kiro, behind the world that brought spec-based coding into existence and the technical challenges and the engineering leadership challenges that came up along the way. It's a really fun installment. We talk about where specs even came from and the 6 different iterations the UI went through. So really cool deep dive. Be sure to check that out. It'll be dropping next week on Dev Interrupted. And thanks for having me, y'all. It was a ton of fun.
Oh, thank you. And could you throw that link in the chat too?
Yes, I will drop that in the chat for folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. It's been awesome. Appreciate it. And take care. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Likewise. Take care.
See you.
Thank you, Andrew.
And all right. Let me just you and me, Rob, now. So we still have some more time to play around. We don't have any cool games to play, but that was really awesome to play that with Andrew. Thanks again to him for jumping in here. Let me see. Let me look at the chat quickly before we continue on. Here's a good one. What do you think, Rob? I'm very new to development and I'm having a lot of fun using Kiro. Are there any extensions that you recommend for the Kiro IDE that would be helpful?
That's a great question. Extensions per se, not specifically extensions I have in mind, but an MCP server that I love using over and over again as a front-end leaning developer is Chrome Web Dev Tools MCP. I love it, and we'll see it in action today too, as we're maybe even speccing or vibing, depending on.
Ooh, nice. Yes, we will continue with that theme. I will say, so the Kiro has an extension. It can, obviously, it's based kind of on the VS Code world here. And so many of the extensions in the marketplace that are out there will work inside Kiro. So I use Prettier. I'm just looking at what I have in here. I'm deep diving into Python a lot, of course. So all those Python extensions that everybody knows and loves, like the Python debugger. I'm a huge Vim fan. So I use Vim for everything. And there's a really cool extension that Kiro works for Vim. That works with Vim. That works great. I had the Vue official one here. And one really nice one, if you are a Windows user, there is an extension to add, if you're using WSL2, that's the Windows subsystem for Linux. There is an open remote WSL library that you can use, and it works really well. So you can then use Windows subsystem for Linux with Kiro, and I'd use that all the time. Cool. Let me look here. Anything else in the chat? Really cool. Thank you, Erie Edits. And it's a little shout out to Andrew here. Just built an AI-based code-based analysis tool, and it was a mix of structured specs and vibey vibes. I like that. We should just call vibe coding just vibey vibes. We should change the name of it. So some people using the Playwright. Have you used the Playwright MCP server?
I did use a Playwright MCP server, and I moved on to Chrome Web DevTools MCP server because it really does most of what I need in terms of accessing my website. And on the headless browser, I am able to actually just kind of enter my credentials in when I need to, and it'll save that information in that particular browser. And so when Chrome DevTools goes on and needs to log in, it's already logged in, and it can go into these authenticated pages for me.
Nice. We should give a shout out. Both of us have blog posts that just went out in the last couple of days. Do you want to talk about your blog post real quick?
Sure, yeah. Steering, right? So we've all been accustomed to Kiro's steering features. And have you ever found yourself telling Kiro the same standards and same specific coding style that you have or your team has on every new project? And you have to repeat yourself, right? And as a dev, we don't want to repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. Well, when it comes to prompting the AI, global steering just came out, a new feature in the latest release of Kiro. And you won't have to repeat yourself in some of these steering files, because you will be able to have global steering files that will apply to all your projects. And that will live in your user home directory in the .kiro folder, rather than in your project folders .kiro folder.
Yep, and we just added that to chat. So anybody who would like to get that, to look at that, mine was on the new remote MCP capabilities of Kiro, which is really awesome. Now you can natively add remote MCP servers. You can add OAuth. MCP servers have OAuth in the background. Do dynamic client registration, which is great. A couple more questions, and then we'll jump into, I think Rob has a demo he wants to show. Can Kiro spec out a full roadmap, like different parts of the project, all parts and different tasks.md? Yeah, so I'll take this one. So Kiro, the spec, it's pretty powerful. You can have very broad questions and broad asks of Kiro, and it will create the design documents and the requirements documents and create a list of tasks for you. So if you have like a roadmap it's very diverse with different parts of things, you could say, help me create a roadmap for my product. And then it could help you create that roadmap. In fact, I was just talking to Eric Johnson, the other developer advocate that's also named Eric. We were on a live stream yesterday for serverless office hours, and he actually used Kiro to help him create his slides for his reInvent talk. So he was able to like kind of vibe code back and forth saying, hey, I'm creating some slides. What do you think? And then he was able to have it help him generate those, which is pretty cool. So you would be surprised at all the different things that you can do with Kiro.
Yeah, my experience with that has been when it's an app with multiple different moving parts and different features, that in each feature itself, it's very comprehensive. For example, maybe a task manager that has a calendar feature and also a notes writing feature. Like imagine like Notion and Google Calendar combined. Those are two separate apps, almost like two separate roadmaps. Kiro, when I spec'd that out, Kiro actually generated that full plan for me, but also divided those tasks or grouped those tasks into phases. So it organized those larger comprehensive features into different phases. So a good idea is to, once it completes a phase within the tasks.md file, highly recommend vibing out that phase and seeing if it's working the way you want it before completing the next phase. So you don't want to run through all of your tasks without checking at the end.
Yeah, there's definitely a certain way you want to make sure that when you create specs that you check them all out. Looks like Andrew's in the chat, but let me see. I will post a link to his Substack, the Dev Interrupted one. Make sure I got it right here. Yep, so this is a great place to go. I'll put it on the screen here. Yeah, so make sure everyone checks out devinterrupted.substack.com and you can check out the interview later. Okay. So, Mr. Gusto, the questions are coming in hot, but I think we're going to have to jump into your demo, but I'll just look a couple more. Okay. Oh, nice shout out from Gusto. There is a Kiroween hackathon going on right now. So if anybody's interested, we had a really cool live stream last Friday from the AI Loft with Helen, and we talked a little bit about Kiroween, and we kicked off a hackathon there. So there's prizes, all sorts of things. I'll throw that down in the information too in the Slack, in the channel too for the chat. Oh, and then I guess Ramirez for mentioning Kiroween first. Yes. Thank you, Gusto. Okay, I think I got through most of the chat, but keep it coming. So in this second half of the show, I feel like we should start talking more about specs versus vibes. And Rob, I know you want to show a little bit on that. So yeah, go ahead, share your screen. Let me see. Do you still have it shared?
No, I do not. I will go ahead and share my screen right now.
Awesome. Look, Lab
Right.
Report says, I finished my Kiroween project in a day, which makes me think it's not complex enough to win. But yeah, thank you for trying it out, though. Here's the Kiroween. I'll throw it in the chat if anybody wants to join the hackathon. You can go there to get some more official at kiroween.devpost.com. And it's open until deadline's December 5th. Okay. Let me know when you're ready, Rob.
I am ready.
Okay, let me share your screen. Oh, I just see your calendar.
Perfect. Yeah, that is my app that I wanted to
Oh, nice. I like it.
go over, and you'll see also my Kiro. Can you see my Kiro IDE?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So we're going to either vibe or spec based on some bugs or fixes or new features, whatever. And you guys can also suggest some. I want this to be interactive, so y'all can also suggest some features or ideas, and we'll consider them to do it live.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the app first.
Perfect. So in the chat, let me know, type a +1 if you've ever resonated with this issue where you've never found the perfect task manager app for you, whether it's, you found one app that just has that one missing feature and you're like, or there's another one that's like, that has everything you need in terms of organizing in a calendar, but doesn't let you maybe write out notes or, easily add to-do lists or organize it. And so everything's missing something. And so this idea was inspired by that pain point where I wanted my personal, I know it's another to-do list app, but, and I hate to do another to-do list app, but I wanted the one app that would just really have everything that I personally need for the way that my brain organizes my tasks that I need to do, and my ADHD brain for me to actually commit to different tasks and have clarity about when and where I'm going to be doing these tasks.
I love it. Yeah, I love the idea of combining both there.
So yeah, so that's what we have. This is just a regular to-do list right here with some filters, nothing too crazy here, but here is, you can see all those tasks here. And this is after one round of spec-driven development on this idea that I just mentioned. And I wanted to be able to have all my tasks here. And for each task, although they may have deadlines and so on, I also wanted to allocate time for action, like to take action on the task. So even if a task is due, let's say Saturday, maybe I wanted to be able to allocate time on Wednesday and drag and drop that task into my schedule so that I know what my day is going to look like in terms of what tasks I'm going to do, rather than just having to predict based on the deadline and how much time I have left. And I wanted to also be able to see everything in one place and quickly, drag and reorganize them or filter them based on priority and so on. So that's where we're at right now. But there are some bugs that are here, and I wanted to go over that, and also some new features that I wanted to include into this app. So you guys are going to tell me spec or vibe based on what we're going to do.
I already got a question from the chat. This looks amazing. When are you launching it? When's this new calendar going to launch for your next business?
Hey, maybe we can get this deployed, and maybe we can get this deployed during this live stream and share out the link. Depending on how fast the spec or vibe, I'm not going to reveal the answer of what we're going to do for that is going to take.
All right, that's awesome. By the way, did you create this whole app using Kiro with specs and vibes?
Yeah, great question. So this was first vibing out the idea of what it would take in terms of dragging and dropping into a calendar. What are some different libraries or packages I can use for that, or if I can use custom CSS and custom math logic and time logic, which is kind of tricky sometimes, with time and math. And I just wanted to kind of explore that, but also this app has another purpose. Always be learning. And React 19.2 came out about a month ago, and the Claude models or any models really are not trained up on what just came out. So I wanted to practice learning and building with React 19.2 to check out all of its latest features and understand what they do. And I figured an app like this, where there's dragging and dropping, lots of UI updates, that's going to be great opportunity for me to learn about the different features of this of React 19.2 while I'm building the task manager that I've always wanted.
Quick question from Gusto then. So other than React 19.2 that you're learning, did you decide what libraries you wanted to do for the drag and dropping, or Kiro just decided all?
So Kiro gave me a couple options, and so I in the beginning. I vibed out some of those options, and I did not choose any external libraries for this. It's custom CSS here, and
You didn't use Tailwind. This is all just like CSS.
no Tailwind involved. Just wanted to focus primarily on React 19.2 features, and just that's where I'm at. And this is the MERN stack. I love my MongoDB. So, and I also wanted to play around with in the future the MongoDB MCP server, which I have not gotten to that stage yet. But I wanted to build an app that would allow me the opportunity to do so once I'm ready, once this is a little bit more fleshed out. And we're gonna flesh this out during this live stream.
Nice. And for those who don't know, MERN, MongoDB, Express, React, and Node, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, right. Yes. And and people are asking, how did you figure out a non-purple design?
Carolina blue is my favorite color. So this is, once again, this is a task manager for me personally. And everyone's brain works differently on what colors motivate them or what colors, give them a certain mood. For me, this Carolina blue theme gives me this productivity feeling, productivity essence. And I love the ocean too. I used to live in San Diego, and that's, all of that was involved in this design.
Nice.
But sometimes you got to turn the lights off.
Andrew's still in the chat. So did you specify Carolina blue? That's important. If you don't want purple, you say you do want to say what you do want.
Absolutely. Here is the design system. Carolina blue all day, all types of shades
Wow.
of Carolina blue, huh? Because I didn't want it to go off the rails and just do some other colors. I really wanted to be pretty particular about the colors. For me, I'm a very visual person, and I have ADHD, and these colors matter for me when it comes to focus and staying on task.
I get you. Yeah, for sure.
And
all right, let's jump in.
Pop quiz for the chat here. If I wanted this design system, let's say I wanted all my apps to have this Carolina blue theme. Now with steering as we knew it maybe a month ago, I would have to copy and paste this into a new project over and over again. But what can we do now if I want to reuse this for every project? Let's say every project is going to be Carolina blue. What would I have to do?
Does anyone know in the chat? We'll give the chat a second. I think they're trying to remember what you said earlier.
I'll give a hint. I can add steering like this. And now, what is the new feature here that might be useful? If all my projects I wanted Carolina blue, let's say I own this company that's all Carolina blue.
Is it that global agent steering?
That's correct.
Yes.
Global agent steering. And that way, you'll see all projects incorporating this particular steering file, and you'll see another toggle here with global, and that will automatically be inherited from your user home directory /.kiro/steering folder.
Nice. Yes, 100%. We have another question from Gusto in the chat. Well, until you get into the second part of your demonstration.
I love the questions, Gusto. Thank
question
you.
Regarding what we discussed on the AWS string yesterday. Do you write your steering before writing specs or after?
Great question. So let's rewind to how my first day or first hour of working with this app. I was trying to figure out and learn about the React 19.2 features. So I was exploring React 19.2, and obviously no model knows about React 19.2 right now. So I used some MCP servers and asked it to take a look at, I also had the GitHub one enabled as well at the time. and just look at all the code snippets and examples and recent documentation and releases and blogs from Meta about React 19.2 features. And then I had it actually create the best practices steering file first after I had learned about these features, because when I told it about what I wanted for my app and which React 19.2 features would apply for those for the features of my app, use optimistic was a core one, because there's going to be a lot of drag and drop movements. So because I vibed out kind of what types of features I wanted to go for, I was exploring these features, asking about these features, and also in tandem with how React 19.2 would be beneficial for those features. That's how I was able to generate this steering doc. So this is specific to React 19.2 and how it would be involved in my use cases. Drag and drop, task status toggles, things like that.
Yeah, I like that pattern. The way I do it is I create, if it's a new project or even existing project, I make sure the README is well written and it talks about what the project's supposed to do and what you need to do. And if I need to, I might even use a little bit of Kiro and vibe code out the README so it's very solid. And then what I do is I use there's a generate steering docs command inside Kiro. You can find it, I believe, if you do Command-Shift-P, you can just look for Kiro generate steering docs. If you don't have any steering docs, you can generate a custom steering doc. I believe there's a one to just create them all. Let me see here. It should say generate. You probably can't do it, but it looks like generate project steering documents. I'll show it on my screen. But yeah, you can generate the steering docs, and then it uses the README, looks at the existing project if you have one, and then I'll go in like you are doing, Rob, and I'll use context 7. I've even seen people just inside Kiro in Vibe, you can set a URL. If you do hashtag URL, you can specify a URL. And then you can just give it a URL and say, can you just look through this website and just summarize it, grab the information from it, and then add it into a steering doc. So that's kind of like 3 different ways. You can use like context 7 or an MCP server to help create the steering docs. You can use just put a URL into the vibe, create the steering docs. But I would do that first to give give Kiro, the LLM, the coding agent, as much information as possible before you start creating the specs, just to give a better chance of getting exactly right what you want to do.
Exactly. And yeah, this was kind of where I started. Imagine there was nothing here, no files or nothing. It was an empty folder. And I just asked it this just to get an idea, because I didn't really know up to which React version it knew. And at the time, well, I guess it's using my steering files. Great. Now it knows.
Yeah.
But if it didn't have the steering files, and it just said it knew React 19 from the October release of last year. And therefore, that's when I knew, okay, I need 19.2, need to go ahead and use context 7. So I told it, use context 7 and give me the React 19.2 documentation information. And also based on that, I want these features in this app. How would they apply? And this is how it was generated. So this was really my first steering file that was generated. And after that, some things like theme implementation. After specking out the app for the first time, the light mode, dark mode it was not consistent. I think it just made the header work for the light mode, dark mode, but the text colors and stuff was not properly fleshed out. So I went through another spec just for, not spec, I went through another steering file after having debugged just the header issues where it partially worked and nothing else worked in terms of dark mode, light mode. And then from that, I was able to, what we uncovered from debugging in the vibe portion, that information that we learned of why it didn't work the way it did and how we fixed it, I had it generate a steering doc from that chat to take all those key lessons And now Kiro knows how to apply it whenever I add new components, and now it's consistent in light mode, dark mode theme.
Nice. Do you want to, I see there's a few questions, but how about, we got about 15 minutes left. Do you want to like try to do a little vibe versus spec on one of these?
Yeah. So here I'm able to put a task on the calendar, like schedule annual health thing, right? But let's say my mom's birthday celebration is coming up, and I don't want to just spend an hour on it. It's my mom's birthday celebration. It's pretty important to me. I want to spend more time. So I wanted to drag this, but it's not dragging. I wanted to make this task longer. It's just not working. So I want to fix this bug. What should we do? Spec or vibe?
I'm saying vibe. Because I think like a feature like this, and maybe chat, oh, I see some vibes in the chat too. We got vibe, cool. I think like a feature like that, it looked, at least to me on first glance, and maybe when you deep dive into it, it's a lot more difficult, but it feels like it should be an easier task than like building a whole dashboard, like in our previous example with Andrew, where that was like, clearly you're creating a dashboard. There's a lot of components. We're grabbing data from different sources. Probably want to spec that, but this feels like we can maybe just vibe it and have it do it for us. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that approach. Let's vibe this out because it is within a feature itself. It's a bug, and I'm trying to fix it because in my spec, I did clarify that I want this feature, and it tried, right? You see, it even has the UI here for the dragging to elongate the task. But right now, only the dragging for moving the task to another, time slot works, but no way to make the task longer. So let's vibe this out. And with the vibe, right, the spec and the vibe, I see it more as a spectrum, pun intended, by the way, because when you're vibing, right, when we say spec, word specify comes to mind for me. And, design docs, requirement docs, those are very specific and lots of specifications there. But in your vibe prompt itself, you can also make a vibe prompt very specific. So I had some examples that I wanted to show here. Here's my MongoDB, by the way. I just have this open just to, keep track of my data as I'm working it. So here, right here, as you can see in my notes, for this feature, I could either have my prompt that I just, write in my vibe mode like this, like user should be able to increase, decrease task duration. But one thing I like to do in vibe mode sometimes, so that I reduce the going back and forth and make it more likely for the vibe mode to just work right away instead of having too many back and forths, is I like to put this into my, I like to put this prompt into my LLM of choice and ask it to generate a more LLM-friendly prompt out of it. And then I'll end up with something kind of like this. So you can actually ask Kiro for that. So it'll just be one back and forth to improve your prompt.
So ask Kiro to create your prompt. So asking Kiro to create Kiro's prompt.
Exactly.
A little inception action.
Exactly. My vibe is, it's like a specky vibe approach. So that I know that, one command, one prompt is going to be much more effective once it's fleshed out properly, so that I don't have to go back and forth. So it gave me this, and the core functionality: top border drag, adjust the start time; bottom border drag, adjust the end time, things like that. So, and I wanted to snap at 15-minute increments like Google Calendar would. Basically, I love Google Calendar, and I wanted to have a to-do list in there. That was my whole thing. So I'll give it this, but let the chat decide. Do you guys want me to just use my human prompt or the updated prompt? I'll let you. We'll go with whichever one the audience wants.
Yeah, let us know, chat, what you think. While the chat is thinking, a couple people are asking the Or do you ever change your steering files to have included or manual on it?
Yeah, I do here and there, but for this build, I didn't really mess around with that too much. But I probably could, because it's a MERN stack, right? There's different layers. There's the React aspect. I don't need it to know about the theme implementation when it's working on the back end, for
I
example.
think, yeah. So what he's saying right there at the top is you can change that to be like only run steering files if they're .html or .tsx or something. So that's something you can do, which then one thing can happen is if you get a little too crazy with the steering files, it loads up the context with a ton of information every time you ask Kiro to do something. And that's probably not great either, because you do have limited space. Like these sessions do run out, and then it opens up a new session, which it then summarizes the previous session. And you can always add new sessions too. There's a little plus button, but yeah, I'd say like you can play around with that and see what makes sense. So not every single steering file is running on every single thing you do.
Yeah, that's definitely a great approach. Being mindful of which steering files are involved in which types of tasks, whether it's front end or back end tasks. Maybe you don't need the MongoDB related best practices when you're just building out the UI. So that'll save you some credits down the line. And it's
I see in the chat. Sorry, how about we do? I want to see something prompted. How about we do the user one? Yeah.
Okay, let's do the user one. This is me in my very casual English. Let's go ahead and vibe this out. So I'll ask Kiro, user should be able to increase, decrease task duration when task is on the calendar, dragging top or bottom borders. Top is, start time, bottom is end time. And I want it to snap at 15 minutes. Okay, So let's go ahead and press enter here.
And Zippy Tech has a good comment here. Just make sure your AI regen prompt is complete. I've seen them miss key things adding context sometimes. In fact, like I've seen people before the spec-driven development movement was gaining popularity, and before Kiro was out and really made it what it is today, people were using LLMs and their coding agents to create documents, kind of like a cheaper way, a simpler way to create like spec-driven development, kind of like what you did there, but they would be like create a document that lists the features and create a document that does this, and then they would have the LLM or the coding agent go through it and start applying the tasks.
I love it. Yeah, that's part of that spectrum of vibe and spec, right? You can be a little bit of both at the same time sometimes when you're vibing. And that's really what spec-driven development means, in some cases for me, because even when I'm vibing, it's really a spec for like that I manually generated the spec instead of Kiro's spec. And then I'll do Kiro's full-fledged spec approach when I need to build out the app. So it's going to go ahead and take a look at it. It needs the ability to drag and drop border, start time. Okay. At a top, so it's gonna add the resize handle on the top border, which it did not have at the time. So now, okay, there's a one for the top and the bottom. Let's see what else is gonna happen here.
Ran a command. We also, with the latest versions of Kiro, we improved the process background output. So you might see like little icons now. So it tries to do a better job when it runs. And I know it sounds like you're also having it, you just accepted all these commands. That's why they're just running without asking for any input.
That's correct. Yeah, throughout
the YOLO mode.
Yeah, I call it. Have you all heard of ghost riding the whip? It's like a popular thing that happened back in the day in the hip hop culture. It's basically where your car is running on neutral and it's just riding, and you can just get out your car and start dancing on top of the car, put some music on, right? I call this ghost riding the Kiro.
Okay, yeah, just like
when I just accept all the commands and it's all in my allow list.
Kiro Ghost just has it has the wheel.
Pun intended, right? Ghost ride the whip. All right, Ghost Ride the Kiro.
While it's working, Gusto has so many great questions. What is one feature you'd like to add to Kiro? And shout out to Gusto for being an amazing mod as well.
What is one feature? I notice for me, when I have a bunch of chat sessions, right? Sometimes I'm like, let's say I'm done with all these chat sessions. I want to just right click and close all. That'd be great. Otherwise, I'm clicking X. And if there was like 30 tasks in that spec, I'm clicking X 30 times.
Yeah, I think that could be improved. You can also like scroll left and right if you have a bunch of them, and you, depending how large you keep the screen sizes, and then you may forget one's open. I kind of like having leaving some older sessions open, because then I'll open a new session and then I'll start working. I'm like, oh, what was that? What did it say in the last session? Then I can go back and look through it. It's open on the screen. So a couple suggestions: modify order of task queue, drag and drop queue stack. There is once if you're doing spec-driven development, it creates tasks, and then you have a task queue. Yep. And in here too. Yep. Yeah, you can have that. This shows like everything is running, so you can do multiple things at once. Yeah, it'd be nice to do a little bit more updates. Then we have been gathering lots and lots of feedback of like what the best and what people are telling us they want to see in Kiro. So we are listening.
I love that. I love that suggestion. Whoever said about being able to drag and drop it here, the queue, because sometimes I accidentally click on a different task and I skipped one task prior by accident, and then Kiro's just going on, and then I have to, and let's say I have a bunch of other tasks underneath it in queue, I have to delete all these other ones in the queue just to reorganize one that I messed up on. But it'd be great to be able to drag. Love that.
Yes.
Write that down.
Looks like you had tests going, so it looks like it passed all the tests. I feel like tests, when Kiro does tests, it does make things, it makes things better, but in no ways does this mean that it's going to do exactly what you expect it to do. Let's see. Hey, look at that.
All right, perfect. And now, wait, no, that wasn't the one that I wanted to spend too much time on. I wanted to plan my mother's birthday longer. Now it's 2 hours long. Perfect. And now, we can take a look at this task. It is 2 hours long here. And part of the learning of React 19.2 for me was, what happens if there was like, how can we improve this, right? This is a UI being changed based on data. For example, the data is the amount of time duration for the task. And the server side is sometimes going to be angry if some task is overlapping, or let's say I have a feature where a task can't be longer than 3 hours long or something, whatever validation I have on the back end. We're waiting for the back end to approve that. Once I drag and it clicks, the back end has to kind of approve it. And in order to make that faster and more seamless, there is this feature in React 19.2 called Use Optimistic, where it'll actually, even if it would fail the validation on the back end, if the task is like too long, for example, it temporarily shows on the UI optimistically as if the server approved it. But if, let's say, I'm going through a tunnel and the server, is lost connection, or if there's validation issues on the back end, then it'll revert back to whatever it was before I moved the UI. So that's a cool feature I learned.
And Zippy in chat said too that technically, like, depending on how big that window is, like it could be cutting off some of that information, like how it cuts off the last. It says family, but I don't see like what it's cutting off. You could probably like figure out ways to like little improvements there too, of changing how that displays when it's longer or shorter. We are just about out of time though. So I think, thank you everyone for joining. This is a really cool demo. I'm glad we were able to get one through and we were able to vibe code it and see what it looks like. That is all of us. Cool. Thanks, Rob. Once again, I want to thank Andrew. Thanks to the whole team putting this together. Emma, Jeffrey, everybody on stage and off stage. This is really cool. And we will be catching everybody in the next one. This is happening every 2 weeks. So stay tuned, and we'll be streaming everywhere. Thanks, everyone. Anything last thing, Rob, you want to say?
Last thing, yeah, thank you all for your questions. And if we had more time, I wanted to also add a whole new feature. And I want to ask you one last time, Spec or Vibe for this one. If we really wanted to add a whole new feature that's kind of overhauling the whole app, where I wanted to also have let the user create goals that they have in their lives, and then it auto assigns the task to those goals, and you have a dashboard that shows you a representation of, okay, how much of your tasks are really going towards your goals in life, and how much of your tasks are just like meaningless tasks, so you can get an idea of if you're really being productive or not. Would that be Spec or Vibe?
I see someone says Spec in the chat. I agree. Okay, maybe we'll do more of this next time. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, chat.
Take care.